Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage Dinah McLeod in conversation with the president of Glencore DRC and chair of Kamoto Copper Company. Ladies and gentlemen, Marie-Chantal Kaninda.
So, Marie-Chantal, thank you very much for spending this time with us today. We have a half an hour to talk about a lot of things, about mining, about Glencore, but I'd like to start out about yourself. Will you just tell us a little bit about who you are, your role, how you got into this job? What's a nice girl like you doing in an industry like this?
Well, first of all, thank you, Dinah, for having me. Thank you to the Cobalt Institute. I'm Congolese. I've been very fortunate to have worked or to have lived in many countries in my life. But in fact, I wanted to be a banker. And I found myself into the mining industry and never left it. Was very fortunate to work for the biggest companies in this world, whether the Anglo-America, the Beers, Rio Tintos. Was very fortunate to be the executive director for the World Diamond Council. And then was poached by Glencore more than 5 years ago. In September it will be 5 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes. So that's a bit me.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's quite an insight. Why did you not go into banking? I'm sorry, we've got many questions, but this is, why did you just get addicted to mining then?
Well, but today I'm also the chairperson for a standard bank in the DRC, so in a certain way I'm still a bit in the banking system, so yeah. But I mean, it was just that I wanted to go into the banking system, then met a friend who was in the mining industry, so got involved into the mining industry and I never left it, and I'm happy to still be there.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, thank you for that background. I have a series of questions to ask you. So perhaps we could just start with Glencore itself. It's been a significant player in the cobalt industry. Share some of the key initiatives that Glencore has undertaken with regard to responsible and sustainable cobalt production in DRC, if you would, Marie-Chantal.
Yes. Well, you know, if you talk about responsible sourcing, I think that it starts first by the way you do business as a company. I would say the way you internally are, and at Glencore we have very strong values, because I think that it starts first by those values. We have a purpose, and then as you have that, you ensure that they do align with your the national laws, the international standards, because I think that that's also key and important. And then what you also have to ensure is that you have very high ESG standards as well, because today you cannot do without that. And then whether we like it or not, when we talk about cobalt, it's something that you have in your car, something that you have on your phone. Earlier on, you were mentioning that each time we take a plane, you know, cobalt is involved into it. So in a certain way, you know, you have to understand that the consumer, the end product consumer, wants to ensure that he knows where it comes from, and that it is mined responsibly. So for us, it is a duty to ensure that we do mine responsibly. And then when you take a company like Glencore, it has a very unique profile, because we are a major trading company, and we are also a major industrial mining company. So we know that not only do we produce it, but we know that we are in contact with our clients who want to ensure that they do buy proper, responsible cobalt. So it is a responsibility for us. So that's very key, and we have to ensure that not only are they feeling comfortable to buy it, but they have to know that it comes from the DRC and that it has been properly mined in the DRC. So that's really key for us. The other part that is very key to us is our employees, because you cannot talk about being a responsible mining company without ensuring that you have employees that are happy to work for your company, that you treat properly, you ensure that they have a future in the organization in which you do work. Then maybe another point that that can have interest as well is we tend to talk about ASM as well a lot when we talk about Cobalt, and as a responsible company, we want to ensure that the Cobalt from the DRC has a good reputation. You need to ensure that Cobalt, even if we feel that, as it is said by many experts, that Cobalt should sit between 5 and 10% of the DRC production, but we still support responsible ASM, artisanal small-scale mining, and we support it through the Fair Cobalt Alliance. So maybe in a few points, that's really what I want to say about responsibility. I might have forgot 1 or 2 points, but it will come certainly in after in other questions.
Good, great. I love the way that you have mentioned the importance to employees of being a responsible employer as well, because that is just absolutely crucial. You cannot do one without the other.
Yeah. Maybe the points I had forgotten is about our communities.
Yes.
You cannot operate in an environment and forget your communities. And initially I said, we come with very strong values, but what we do is we have to ensure that culturally we are not shocking the communities living around, because we are the ones coming to operate in an area. So we have to ensure that the connection with the communities is well done and it works well. So it is important for us to create that link. It's true that we call it social license to operate. And it's true that the social license to operate is how am I accepted by the community. And that's what we work with. We ensure that, for instance, we have our teams on the ground do have relationship with the traditional authorities, because it is important we are working on their land. So those are really things that for us, you cannot talk about responsibility without taking that into account.
Yes, I was thinking also of the Kamoto Copper Company.
Yeah.
Is something where you have done some particularly important work on this.
Yes, it's true. It's true that maybe just as a context, it's good to know that we have 2 operations in the DRC. We have Kamoto Copper Company that we do call KCC, which is a partnership with GECAMINE, and some of my GECAMINE colleagues are there, so happy to see them. And we also have Mutanda Mining that we do call MUMI, which is in which the government has a shareholding. So those are the 2 companies in which we do work. And as you say, it's true that KCC of course implements all the values that I have just mentioned, but when we talk about KCC, I could talk about so many examples of things that we do so well for the communities. And of course, initially I mentioned to you that we are compliant with the law, and the mining code in the DRC, especially the 2018 one, has brought in something important for the communities. And as a company, we have to commit to all of those. For instance, I'll take a very important example for us, which is what we call the cahier de charge. It is something that is requested in the mining code, which is in fact, an agreement with the communities, with the local government on social projects that needs to be implemented with the communities. And what is really different and important is those projects are not decided by us. It is really decided by the communities, and of course with our advisors sometimes, but it's really something that the community wants. And when I look at KCC and MUMI together, it's more than $50 million for those social projects. Then you have other funds as well that are for the future generations that is given, and those funds will serve to invest in whether education or in other things. But there is one specifically that is also invested for sexual violence in conflict zones. And I think that as a company operating in the country, we are proud to be part of those initiatives, very important for us.
Yeah, my goodness. So a lot to unpack there. It reminds me of my World Bank days. I began my career at the World Bank, and I worked on very similar projects where the community were the ones that were in charge articulating their needs. So it's amazing to hear that Glencore is participating in such a project with such significant funding associated with it.
Well, you know, at the end of the day, whether you like it or not, we talk about communities, but some of those community members are our employees as well. Because KCC and MUMI together have more than 16,000 employees and contractors, and it makes us one of the big employer of the region, or maybe even of the country. And within those more than 60,000 employees and contractors, I would say that more than 90% are Congolese. And what we try to do is Congolese, but we also have people really coming from the areas and from the communities. And what is nice is it's not only 90% that are just like low-level employees, but you have very senior Congolese people driving KCC. So I think that that's really something that for us makes us proud, and we think that it is important. And of course, you might ask me about females. It is still a challenge, and it's generally a challenge in the mining industry. But what we have done is we have put in a system where we can recruit more females, but it's about diversity and inclusion. How do we ensure that we do have the right processes in place to ensure that females do feel comfortable in that environment? And we feel that it needs to start from school. Because usually at school, do children look at, especially females, do they look at the mining sector as a female, industry? Usually not really. What we do, we do some campaigns, in fact. We do some campaigns where we have big posters in town, where we explain what mining is, what mining looks like, and where we get them to understand that they could also be part of this sector. So now we are also having once a year, I think, children coming to visit their parents at work, which I think it's always important and good. So there are many things that we are really trying to do to increase the number of females in our operation. So that's something very important to our heart, and personally I think it is critical in a country where you have more than 60% of the population that is still very young. So we want to ensure that whether females or male, they can feel that this is an environment in which they could be working.
So I noticed from your biography as well, you're creator of a not-for-profit, the MCKM Foundation, addressing girls' education.
Yes.
So it must be just fantastic to have an employer aligning with your personal values.
No, exactly. I think that that's really critical, and it is critical in that area because you want to see first of all girls going to schools, which it's important, and that's part of our infrastructure projects where we promote schools, we build schools, we improve the educating standards. We ensure that in the schools that we have been building or promoting, there are girls also attending to those schools. And I think that those are maybe little things, but they are things that do impact the community in which we do have our operations. And I think that having more females in the mining industry, and I can even take examples of females driving these very big trucks. A few years ago, there were none of them. But now I think that we have more than 36 females driving those very big trucks.
You mean the ones with the wheels like
Exactly, exactly. And those females, in fact, some of them had never been driving. And they learned how to drive, and today they are one of our best employees because, first of all, it is said that usually females do take very good care of their equipment, and that they do it very well. So those are things that we are very proud of. We have a few females today that do go underground as well in our underground mine, which did not exist a few years ago. So really we are trying to move more women, and in this very male-dominant, let's put it like that, environment.
That's fantastic. I never thought I would share this, and it's probably too much information, but I've always wanted to drive those things. So if there's any possibility of visiting, get trained on that. Maybe we can move to the international, the market, basically, if we can. There's the global demand for cobalt. Glencore is going to need to play a greater role in sort of ensuring a stable and a secure supply of cobalt. How is Glencore going to make sure that we are going to have enough to power our electric vehicles and all of the other things that cobalt is crucial for?
Well, I guess that, we, as you say, we are in a global market, so it's maybe not about us alone, but at least as a company, what we do is, as I mentioned initially, we come up with the right standards, EGC. We are RMI certified for both KCC and MUMI. We have started to undergo the Copper Mark certification as well. And I think that those are really the things that we want to do to show that in the long term we mine responsibly and in a sustainable way. So really those are really the important things for us. And even though we are mining in the D Ancien, I want to insist on that because people tend to think that mining in a difficult environment gives you different standards, and which is not our case. I mean, if you come to visit our operations, and we have done that quite a fair bit with diplomats, ambassadors visiting our operations, and I mean, it's not even a secret, the US ambassador, we were very fortunate to be hosting her at KCC. You have clients visiting our operations. You have journalists. I have seen one or two here that have been visiting our operations. International, national journalists. We have had civil society visiting our operations. And they all come back a bit like, taken back. Yes, this is in the DRC. And I can say that our operations in the DRC are no different from what you have in Australia or in Canada or in Latin America. The standards are all the same. And that's critical and key. And that's the way we are going to sustain our responsible production of cobalt.
You make me realize this consistency of standards of global operations.
Exactly.
That you're offering
Yes.
for the future. Super interesting. So this is a very large question. So you may answer it in any way, but there are opportunities and challenges facing the cobalt industry. How is Glencore, maybe Glencore DRC, positioning itself to operate, and what do you see the big challenges, and how do you see the opportunities that are lying ahead?
Okay. I'll maybe start by the challenges and I'll end up with the opportunities. And I know that when it comes to the DRC, the challenges that are always mentioned is it is a difficult environment. And I hear that so many times, even in the previous panel. You know, you hear about the DRC, it's such a difficult environment. But as I said this morning, you know, the DRC will never be the US, the DRC will never be Switzerland or Canada. The DRC is the DRC with its context. So I think that as a company, when you come to operate in a country, you have to adapt to the environment in which you are. It can be different because it's something that you don't know about. But I'm not always too sure that we should always talk about the difficulties. I'm sure that someone living in the DRC coming to live in the US initially, especially in New York, you know, the first days they're going to be a bit like taken back. What is it? You get my point. So anything new can be different. But saying that, I'll come to the ASM. It's true that we talk a lot about ASM, child labor, and it's true that it can be an issue. But the way we see it is, yes, it can be an issue or for the communities, but we have a department, a social community department that works with some of the ASM. And what they have done is for the ones that would like alternative livelihoods, and especially females, we have been able to provide them alternatives, which is supporting them in creating new cooperatives, in sewing, in sewing, agriculture, catering, you know, different services, and we have managed to get them out of it. And the reason for that is we talk a lot about child labor, but what we have realized as a company is children after school tend to follow their mother. So they'll go where their mother are. So if their mother are doing artisanal, well, they'll go and join them into the ASM. So what we have realized is supporting these females or even males in alternative livelihood. What happens is that children after work will go and follow them in their catering business, in agriculture or whatsoever. So, but what we have realized is empowering females in those alternatives opportunities. First of all, they are gaining more finance, and they bring in a lot more balance to their family. Children are a lot better educated, so we have realized that then they also have a more stable financing. So that's what we do. It is a challenge, but we can overcome some of those challenges. But one challenge that we don't speak enough about, I think, it's when it comes to illegal semi-scale industrial mining. And that is sometimes something that we should talk a lot more about, ASM. That is not always contained. You have some of those illegal semi-scales industrial production operating in mines that belongs to the private sector. And this can be very challenging for the companies. First of all, it doesn't bring anything to the communities. It doesn't bring anything to the state either. And it is done in a very risky way, and especially relating to the environment, it doesn't bring anything to the country. But what the government has been able to do, and I saw Eric Kalala earlier on, who was there, who heads the EGC. Yes, he's there. And the state have been creating the EGC to be able to control all of that, to ensure that it stops existing. And I think that traceability that will be created by the EGC will respond to some of those concerns that we can have. So those are really the challenges that we see. Of course, you can talk about the challenges of infrastructure and others, but as a company, we do invest in infrastructure to overcome those shortfalls.
Oh, that's a super interesting. So I wish we had more time. Do we have more time? One more question? Great.
Okay.
Thank you. I would like maybe just to end off, I had another, well, I'll ask two really quickly though. First of all, we haven't talked about environmental stewardship, and I wonder if you could just have say a quick couple of words on that.
Yes, first of all, as a company, as an international company, we have very strong international standard that we do implement to preserve the environment, because we all know that the mining industry comes with some impact on the environment. So what we have done is, first of all, from a forestry perspective, we have been able to, in a project called the Miombo project, plant more than 90,000 seeds. And this is such a great project, and we have done it in 2022, so you can just imagine today where it is. So that's one of the projects. We also, of course, monitor water, noise, dust, to ensure that it doesn't impact on the communities. We also capacitate the communities to ensure that they can also manage their environmental issues. And maybe something that we have not been talking a lot about is because we talk about energy transition, but I think that the DRC could be one of the greenest country in the world with the Inga Dam, in which we have been investing more than $500 million for 450 megawatts and 1,000 kilometers transportation of electricity, of which we have disposed 50 megawatt to the population of Kolwezi. And we did it with the Inga Dam, but everywhere you are in the DRC, you can have like a hydropower, energy, which shows you really the green, how green the cobalt from the DRC could be. So I think that's something that we really have invested in, and we feel that it is very important.
No, that's wonderful. The last word is yours, Marie-Chantal, just to say maybe what's the message that you would like the audience to take away about Glencore DRT's commitment to responsible cobalt production?
Well, first of all, what I would say is we have been in the DRC for quite a long time, but we have been able to work in the DRC in a very responsible way, and we think that it is feasible because we have managed to do it. And as I said initially, we do it as we would do it in Canada, in Australia, or wherever. So it is completely possible, and we have done it in a responsible way. And when we say responsible, it's responsible towards the country, towards the communities, and towards the international standards as well. And the cobalt that is being mined from our operation is a responsible cobalt. So yeah, maybe that's what I wanted to say.
That's a fantastic note to end on. Thank you so much for a really nice conversation.
Thank you, Dinah.
Thank you.